Since 1911, the Pierre Parts Store has been your one-stop shop. Family owned and operated for 4 generations, the Pierre Parts Store has served the community by providing groceries, hardware, home products, and much more, including a full-service lumber yard. Now, we've added the Thibodaux store to the family with the same values and service we've delivered for over 100 years. The Pierre Parts Store and the Thibodaux store, our family serving your family.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Once again, we're going to be joined by the parish president of Lafourche Parish, Mr. Archie Chaisson. We're going to talk about, and today is Tuesday, in case you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. We're trying to keep you up to date on a daily basis. The parish president is with us now. And Mr. Chaisson, how are you doing today, sir?
We're doing good, Martin. Thanks for having us back on and doing a quick update on the activity in Bayou Lafourche.
All right, we appreciate it. Let's just start off the Unified Command. Of course, there's a lot of you all working on this. I guess the most important part that we should get out the way right off the top is any reports of any injuries concerning this oil spill?
No, luckily we've had 0 injuries. As far as the public goes, nobody's been kind of traversing the bayou. We have had today a couple of heat-related issues with the contractors from ES&H who are working on the bayou. Those guys are working extremely hard to get this stuff up, and a lot of progress has been made over the last 24 hours as far as the amount of oil that's been picked up off the bayou. But it's just really hot out there, and those guys are trying to stay hydrated, trying to stay in the shade as much as they can, kind of like taking breaks as often as they can. But we're getting to the point it's a little bit more labor intensive. They're moving boom, they're moving vegetation, while those skimmers are still working around them. So luckily everybody's okay, no real big issues. We're just trying to wash those guys in the heat.
Now, if you look at social media, there's variations in how much oil was actually dropped. And I know you know the feeling when you read 10 different ones, you get 10 different amounts of gallons of oil. So what's the correct number?
So it's about 820 barrels of oil, which equates to a little over 34,000 gallons. We do know, luckily, that about 400 barrels or 1,400, 15,000 gallons actually stayed within the facility in their containment dike. So that's a good thing. There's still 400 or so barrels of oil that hit by Lafourche, which is the bad part of this. But again, Martin, a lot of real good progress. We're walking into a meeting here in a little bit to look at an overflight from earlier today. To really show us the progress, show that unified command group, the EPA, Louisiana Oil Spill Coordinator's Office, folks from here within the parish government, the process that has been made and the progress that has been made, should I say, and things are looking better than even I expected at this point.
Is the focus still just on Bayou Lafourche, or are you actually at the facility still focusing on that also?
So a little bit of both. The work inside the facility, inside their containment berm, is just about wrapped up. They're still doing a lot of work in the ditch along the railroad track that connects to Canal Street in the culvert. And later today, they should have all of that vegetation removed from the ditch. And we're going to do one more major flush, probably push somewhere around 70 barrels of water through the Canal Street drainage system. It's all subsurface in that area, Martin. So we want to make sure that everything's flushed. It's still boomed at the end of Bayou Lafourche. So if we do get any residual that was left in that pipe flushing out, we'll be able to capture it right there as it comes out of the culvert in the bayou.
Maybe you could talk about the assets that have been put out, to contain this oil spill. And then I guess the second part of that question, who pays for that? Because I know a lot of people would probably be curious, and I know you don't want to pay for it, in your budget. So there's probably some emergency funding.
Yeah. So, a little over 117 people, I think today were on the water, 28 different vessels between, small John boats, the big Marco skimmers. There are 6 vac trucks still working. 4 of those were in the plant and along that ditch that I talked about earlier. And we have 2 vac trucks that are kind of roaming, that as those Marco skimmers are picking up the oil, we're putting it in the very large totes that are on a barge. Those barges are being pushed to the shore side in a couple of key locations, and then the vac truck drops a hose and sucks that water out. All of the fluids that are coming off of the bayou. So when we talk about numbers, we talk about total fluids that are collected, right? That's oil and water mix as those skimmers are working. All of those fluids are being brought to ES&H's facility in Houma, where they're left to settle. Once they're settled, they'll do something called color cutting. They'll actually look at the amount of water and the amount of oil that has settled out, and it'll give us a true number of what we're collecting off the bayou. And then that'll be able to zero out the amount of oil that we've released, right? We know how much we picked up from the containment dike. We know how much we're picking up from Bayou Lafourche. And at the end of the day, those two numbers should match or be pretty darn close. Where there is an evaporation rate factor in there that as the sun beats on it, some of this stuff actually evaporates off. So there's a percentage and a calculation for that. So in those final numbers that we're going to release, hopefully later this week, you'll be able to see those numbers and how they correlate. I guess luckily for us in parish government, this is all being paid for by the responsible party in Crescent Midstream. It's their spill, it's their responsibility. We've loaned them some stuff, right? They're using our emergency operations center, and they're providing food and water and drinks for everybody who's in there, which is a good thing. They're taking care of all the contractors out in the field and making sure those guys are hydrated and fed. So at the end of the day, there's nothing coming out of the coffers of parish government, because we would be at work anyway. So even Chris and Eric from our emergency preparedness office, who are in there and in some of these meetings, they're being paid regardless. And we have the option to talk about it at the end with the contract, and we'll figure all that out. But at the end of the day, the 98.9% of this is going to be paid for by the customer themselves.
Yeah, and once again, I say it again, just to editorialize a little bit, we don't often see companies step up. That's nice to hear that they've stepped up, they've admitted, and they're helping with, like you said, almost 100% of the cost. So I just want to make sure we note that to the public. This may be a crazy question, but I'm not in the oil business, so I'm asking anyway. Are there different kind of grades of oil that make it harder to clean up than others?
Yeah, there are different grades of crude, right? There's what they call light sweet crude. There's heavy sweet crude. There's different grades of it. This is a crude that's coming directly from offshore that then gets picked up by Crescent Midstream. They're a mid-handler hub is kind of what I've called them, where they collect it from an offshore pipeline, store it, boost the pressure, and then ship it back out to the refineries who actually process it. So in a way, this is good. It's a heavy crude material, so it makes it, while it still floats, it's less dense than water, so it's going to float. It makes it very easy to pick up because it's so thick. It makes it very easy to color cut in that process I talked about a minute ago, because the water is going to settle out kind of quick from it, and then it's of course going to settle off at the top. So it's going to make calculating those final numbers and zeroing that balance out at the end of the day a little bit easier.
All right, let's take a short break. We're going to be right back with the parish president of Lafourche, Mr. Archie Chaisson. Once again, this is the Tuesday briefing that we're giving you. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. All right, we are back, and we're going to be joined again by the parish president of Lafourche Parish, Mr. Archie Chaisson. Has been pretty good with his time letting the public know about this oil spill. If I could, Archie, let's talk about, we talked about human life, no human life threatened on this spill. Do we have an update on wildlife?
Yeah, so kind of the same numbers. We haven't found anything more, fortunately, that's been deceased. So we're still at those 7 or 18 aquatic salamanders, the ditch eels, as they're commonly referred to, a couple of turtles, and of course the one lone crawfish. And while it's a little bit funny, people have asked, well, Archie, why did you talk about the one crawfish? And as you noted earlier, it's all about being transparent. We didn't want anybody to say that we left anything out, that we're trying to hide anything. We wanted to be as observant and as cautious as we could with what we were putting out, and make sure that it was very deliberate.
That is one unlucky crawfish, though. Let me tell you.
It is.
Yeah.
There was I hope it was an anecdotal post on Facebook last night about doing a candlelight vigil for that one crawfish, but. We kind of got a chuckle. Yeah, you kind of got a chuckle at it at this point. But
yeah.
You got and even this morning there was some investigation going on by Wildlife Fisheries about a fish kill that we reported last night. About 300 fish popped up in the Company Canal, Lockport boat launch area. Mostly mullet. There was a few catfish and a garfish. And some shad, but we're trying to figure out what exactly happened there. We do know that yesterday morning there was a large tugboat and a barge that came through to go to a local shipyard, and it's very shallow in that particular area. So we know when that happens. We've seen this before. A tug comes through there, which not a whole lot of large marine traffic in that area, you'll stir up some sediment, you'll get some dissolved oxygen issues, and we can see some fish pop up. So we turn that over to the experts at Wildlife and Fisheries to go out there with some federal and state partners, not driven by the company. This is being driven by the state agencies to figure out exactly what happened. So I think tonight, or maybe this afternoon in the update that we're going to put out, we should be able to touch on what happened. Because I think right before I walked in here, they were finalizing that report. I saw some wildlife and fisheries folks in the office. So hopefully we can touch on that tonight. And of course, if we talk with you guys again tomorrow, we'll bring it up. But that's been the extent. We haven't seen anything else happen. And again, those first few, ditch eels, the crawfish, the turtles were found in that drainage canal that led up to the bayou. And I think what happened was most of that oil really settled there before it got into the culvert and went into the bayou. And that's why you saw that larger sequence there than what we've seen in Bayou Lafourche so far.
Let's combine the air monitoring with the public water safety. Any changes there?
No, luckily, we're still waiting to get those lab results from the LDH samples that were taken inside the plant. Again, just as a holistic transparency issue, that there was another agency testing the water, but no more sheen, no more oil around the intakes. It's still boomed off. It's still being looked at 24/7 and monitored, but we have not seen any issues there. And again, air monitoring continues at a 24/7 rate, both in the bayou and on land, and still no recordable actions there either. So long-term effects from this, I think, are going to be minimal, if any, because we have not seen any water quality issues, have not seen any area issues. So we're very excited about that we could potentially be escaping those two larger issues that we were really worried about in the beginning.
Yeah. What about the emergency declaration? Any idea? Are you still under it? How long does it last?
We're still under it. Those things last for about 30 days before we have to renew them. I don't anticipate having to renew that. We did that in the very beginning because we asked Wildlife and Fisheries to come in and help with the enforcement of the closure of Bayou Lafourche to keep people out from driving their private boats. But really, it was the nighttime activities. We knew we were going to have boom laid out 24/7. And while that boom is lit up at night, we wanted to make sure that there was some added patrols there, that nobody would get caught up in that boom and maybe cause a boating accident. It also helped us with the request to the FAA for that temporary flight restriction to control the drone pilots and the private pilots that were flying over that area, because we've had so many state and federal assets in the air, as well as the helicopter from the company who was providing overflights to the agencies. We really didn't want there to be any crashes and anything falling on that. We have made a request to the FAA to continue that TFR through next Friday, knowing that the cleanup was probably going to continue in the next week. And then we'll see how far that stretches out. But once the majority of the operations conclude on Bayou Lafourche, we'll probably lift that TFR, knowing that we're going to be in a maintenance plan by then. Just really flushing everything, hoping Mother Nature gives us maybe a little bit of rain to help flush that oil back to the center, and that we can skim it off the top.
All right, real quick, the Coast Guard has closed the Bayou de Mariners from Highway 182 bridge to Raceland to the Lockport Bridge. Once again, no dispersants are being used because you can't use them on inland bayous, right?
You can't. Everything's still being manually collected. The stuff people have seen in the videos and the stuff on Facebook of the guy spraying from the boats, that's water from the bayou used to flush the oil out from the behind the vegetation to get it back to the center line of the channel. So Coast Guard is going to continue to monitor that area for us and keep it closed while all the vessel traffic is there. And then again, once we get kind of like the TFR, once we slow this thing down a little bit, we'll be able to reopen the bayou once all that boom is gone. All
right. Anybody is urged to report any oiled wildlife. 832-514-9663. 832-514-9663. Archie, we've got about a minute left. Anything that we left out?
No, I think that's good, Martin. There's also a number on that press release if you have any personal issues that you need to communicate with the company about. You can call that number. It's kind of an assessment line if you have anything on your property or anything that needs to be taken care of. And then again, the media, Martin, you've been great in helping us get the message out, letting us be transparent. So we always appreciate that as well.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate you joining us. We can't do it unless the person is willing to come on and communicate, and we thank you for that. You've always been great at that. Thank you, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate you.
All right, once again, the parish president of Lafourche Parish, Archie Chaisson. There you have it. That's the latest from the oil spill in Lafourche. We will keep you up to date as they meet and they do reassessments, and we will continue to bring it to you. Once again, I want to reiterate that number, 832-514-9663. Give them a call if you have anything to report. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the flip side. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.